Welcome back, everyone. Nicola here, the outreach specialist with REE Medical. We're doing things a little different today, and I'm so excited. I first want to introduce my coworker, Nick Todd. He is our director of partnerships, also a Coast Guard veteran. And we're super excited today to be interviewing Vincent Vargas. Vincent is an Army veteran, an actor, a writer, a journalist, an entrepreneur, all the things. We are going to touch on just your background in the military, your transition, all about your TMRW Battalion Foundation, which we are super excited to get into and highlight, especially in honor of PTSD Awareness Month for June. So I'll just start a little bit. Vincent, thank you again so much for being on today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. So, if you would like to just kind of tell a little bit about your background, obviously in the Army, where you served, anything you'd like to share, we would love to hear it.
I did 4 years with 2nd of the 75th Ranger Regiment and 3 deployments during that time, 2 to Afghanistan, 1 to Iraq as an infantryman. Making the decision to get out of the military wasn't easy. There was a few things that kind of provoked it. We lost a few friends during my time, and it made me really question whether I wanted to continue the military or try and pursue a life outside and see how successful I can be there. I got out of active duty. I kept my one foot in as a reservist. I became a drill sergeant for the Army Reserves. And then the first job I got out of the military that was substantial was a prison guard for a private prison. I did that for about 2 years. Pretty fast, I knew I didn't want to continue to do that. And so I applied for the Border Patrol. I took 2 years to get hired on with the Border Patrol. And I did the Border Patrol for 7 years before resigning and pursuing a career in acting. During my time as an actor, I wanted to pursue writing just the same. And so I wrote a book. I wrote a couple of little books, and then I put myself through the Writers Guild program, the Veterans Writers Guild program, and became a writer for Mayans MC on season 5. Since then, I've written several other projects, and I've written a couple other books. And so my life has been a life of service to this country, but as well as service to my brothers and sisters in arms, whether it be military, also law enforcement. I focus a lot of my life in the mental health space and wellness because it became a big part of my life in trying to, I guess, find my own comfort in my own skin. And so here we are now. I retired from the military at 18 years. I got medically retired. I was just kind of done with that side of my life and wanted to kind of give myself a little bit more freedom for the family and for my drive and passion in film and television.
Wow, that's incredible. So, yeah, you really haven't been doing that much then, huh? Just kind of just kind of coasting, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible. That is like such an impressive list of things that you've done and accomplished. And thank you so much for sharing that.
One of the things that really stood out to me, Vincent, was when we talked about the TMRW Battalion. With our focus on PTSD Awareness Month coming up in June, I was wondering if you might be able to kind of talk a bit about your transition out of the military. In that transition, what was it that led you to founding TMRW Battalion?
I got out of the military in 2007, and up until that point, I don't know if I thought I would have any kind of issues, but I didn't think it was going to be my thing. It didn't take long for me to notice changes. I remember driving home, still in the moving truck from Fort Lewis, Washington. I drove straight south, and I ended up going right into Arizona, is where I decided to live. I remember pulling into this one street. It's called Ellsworth. It's a really big street in this Queen Creek space. I saw the way the houses were made. Like the architect looked I was like, why are they building houses like that? It was very square and almost similar to a very rural space in Iraq or Afghanistan. And I saw the mountains behind me, and it's the Superstition Mountains. Well, actually, those might not be so much, but they're very rigid, sharp, dark, reddish tints, which reminded me again of Afghanistan. And I sat here at a stoplight, looking at the mountains, looking at the architect, and I started to imagine, like, man, that'd be a really bad spot for a sniper for me at this moment. I'd be kind of screwed because I don't know where I'd escape or I'd evade or where I'd go left or where I'd go right. And when I started thinking that, I was like, I remember the car behind me honking its horn, and I was like, oh man, the light's green. And I started driving. And that's the first time I was like, man, I never thought I would find myself in a spot like that. But everything, the surroundings were so similar to Afghanistan, which I just redeployed from Afghanistan 2 months prior. That was the first time I noticed, like, oh, okay, I think I know what it's like now. And it continued to happen. I found myself drinking a lot, kind of the FOMO mentality, the fear of missing out, calling my friends after they come back from deployments. What did I miss? Hearing the stories and feeling bad for losing men. That I felt guilty, as if like if I was still there, maybe I could have helped. Maybe they wouldn't have been in such a bad spot. And that was the beginning of me noticing things. I think what saved me a lot was the fact that I had kids and I had the pressure of making sure that we kept the lights on and the roof over our head. I went to school full time. I worked full time, and I needed to kind of manage the finances at the time of my life. Being that busy kind of kept me from the idle hands. When you don't have anything to do, you start thinking more about what you missed and the kind of the times that you had and the
Yeah.
potential things that you would dwell on, right? And so I think what saved me was the fact that I was driven to make sure my kids were in a good spot. And so I worked a lot and I did school a lot. And I think that was where I was able to kind of mask my struggles. When I got into the Border Patrol is really when I noticed more. I was going through my divorce, and I kind of felt like everything that I held on to dear and everything that was kind of masking my issues was now starting to be uncovered. I didn't have my kids. They lived in Arizona. I was in Texas. I didn't have the wife. I had nothing but time to drink, time to, I get off work and I had nothing but time to dwell on how unhappy I actually was. I started to have issues with night terrors, these dreams. I started to find myself in the border. The smells were similar to Afghanistan. Somebody who's walking in the desert for multiple days on end and body sweat smells very similar to someone from Afghanistan. I'm holding a rifle very similar to what I did in Afghanistan, wearing the same boots I wore in Afghanistan, wearing the same night vision. All my senses were Afghanistan in the middle of Texas, on the border of Texas. And a couple times I almost raised my weapon to engage on someone who was just entering the country illegally with no real threats. And that's when I kind of told a friend that introduced me to a counselor. And the first thing this counselor said was, I don't care about your emotions. I care about fixing your brain. And that was the first approach to counseling that I've ever thought was like, well, this is someone I would try and listen to. So that was the first introduction to EMDR, which is a type of therapy. It focuses on rapid eye movement therapy. The VA does offer this in some cases.
That's proven to be very highly successful for a lot of veterans. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so we did several sessions of that. And I got very curious because up until that point, I had a dream that was reoccurring that affected me. The dream was, it was a rendition of an incident that happened overseas that I felt very guilty about. And I had difficulty sleeping for a long time because when I had that dream, I was terrified to go back to sleep to have it again. A common post-traumatic stress symptom.
Yep.
And I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to accept that. Like I was struggling from something from overseas. It just was like, I'm not weak, right? Those ideas that the world has told us, these alpha male mentalities, these communities of don't show signs of weakness. Until I kind of felt like my life was kind of going so south that I was almost making decisions and contemplating doing very stupid things. And at the same time, this counselor came into my life. And at the same time, the divorce was finalized and I started finding fitness fun again, and things started to kind of pivot. My VA benefits showed up and I'm like, wow, what timing? Like I can pay my bills. This divorce destroyed me financially. Yeah. But then the VA showed up, right? And so things started to kind of pivot and I started finding a lot of veterans coming to me and asking questions on how they can help themselves. And this snowballed into the world that I have now. Since then, I've gone to many different types of counseling, many different types and modalities of healing. When I tell you many, I'm talking, I've tried everything I can think of besides some serious psychedelics because I'm not comfortable yet with that idea. Personally, on my journey, I have to be ready. But I've done stem cell treatments. I've done TBI clinics. I've done breath work. I've done float tanks. I've done meditation. I've done sweat lodge with the Lakota Indians. I've done a long list of different modalities to try and find how to heal not only post-traumatic stress from military, but from my childhood. And this is things that I started to learn that I didn't realize how much some of the experiences of my childhood had affected me as a grown man. This has been 20 something years. Us as a community have been trying to figure out this answer. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands, I mean, hundreds of thousands of nonprofits that try and find the answer. So we all have good intentions. In my own experience, someone who's lived it, done it, I have also taken into account what I've done in the military in the sense of how do you mitigate dangers in training? You have to implement safety measures. So if we're going to go do a live shoot, we have to implement all the safety measures to make sure this is a safe training environment. I don't think our lives are very different. If you have to have a healthy lifestyle, we have to identify the potential areas of crisis that can lead down a road where we don't want, but we succumb to our own injuries. And so as I kind of reverse engineered the idea of like, how do we fix this? It came down to, well, what are the number one areas that maybe someone does commit suicide, which I hate saying the word. And I looked into that. And if you look at that, it's going to be finances, relationships, traumas, addiction, and pain. Those are the 5 top reasons why people succumb to their own injuries. So if I know that's the 5 top reasons, how do I mitigate those 5 reasons now? And so what we've created with Light the Fuse is to create an environment where we address those areas first. And so dealing with addictions, we are in a culture that promotes drinking as if it's nothing. Drinking kills more people in America than any other drug. Well, fentanyl has a strong case now, but alcohol is the only drug in our society that we have deemed it to be completely normal to promote. Cheers, guys. Let's celebrate. But it's also the acting cause of most suicides. Well, that's questionable for us to promote alcohol and then turn around saying, oh, we want veterans to not commit suicide. But then on the other hand, we're like, cheers to our fallen brothers. It's contradictory. And I understand that's the hardest culture to shift in our society right now. Like, I remember myself saying, I don't trust a man who doesn't drink. I remember myself saying that. I'm 5 years sober 2 days ago, 5 years sober, because I decided like,
amazing.
Yeah, I won't continue this path that was handed to us, that was ingrained into our culture. I just personally don't need it. If it doesn't provide any positivity in my life, I don't need it. And so I've removed that from my life completely. And then outside of that, pain is a different one. That's why I did stem cell treatment. I used to have back pain so bad that my wife would put my socks on for me. My daughters would help me carry me up the stairs. And we were able to be very fortunate enough to find a nonprofit to support me getting stem cell treatment in another country. And that has changed my life forever. I can't change people, but I can mitigate their crisis by teaching them how to live a healthier lifestyle. If we teach people how to live healthier lifestyles, they will find themselves in crisis a lot less. And then if we provide tools for them, if you provide tools for people, things like teaching them how to breathe when it's stressful, teach them how to have meditation therapy, teaching them how to use physical fitness as a form of wellness. If you teach people tools, then when they do find themselves in crisis, they can mitigate their own stressors. And so essentially what we do is we try to teach men how to live healthier lifestyles. On top of that, giving them tools when life is life. Life happens. So that's really what we've been able to try and create and giving men, and we focus on men on my group specifically. I don't feel confident saying I know what women go through because I'm not a woman. And so that's a phase that we want to get into and bringing on females to develop a female program. But for these men, we really want to try and focus on those areas and mitigate any kind of potential crisis and then give them tools when life is life, when life happens. I really believe this is probably the best step in the right direction for our community.
That's amazing. There's so much to unpack here. So many questions. First of all, thank you for sharing all of that. A couple of things I guess that really stood out to me the most was especially when you were talking about your trauma and going through everything you went through your healing. I love that you used the word that you wanted to get curious about it and dig deeper into it. That's so powerful.
Thank you.
Nick, is there anything you want to share from your personal, that stood out to you the most?
Yeah, no, you actually made me think it's something that it's not just the trauma or the experiences of military life that is leading our brothers and sisters down these dark paths, but is also not having the support and not having the resources to deal with the trauma that they experience after the fact and in that transition and the additional trauma that comes along with that.
Well, think about this and the compounding effects of having financial issues, relationship issues, and alcohol issues, like the compounding effect of all of it hitting people, because sometimes the alcohol issues create family issues. Sometimes the family issues create alcohol issues and then sometimes financial issues create all of those issues.
Totally.
So
It's all connected and
all connected. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so like, that's the hard part, is that at some point it becomes so overwhelming that people feel, well, maybe it's just easier without this. And that's where they get to. And we always concerned, all of us say this, why didn't they call me? Well, because when someone's in crisis, they're not thinking about you.
Right.
Not thinking about anything but shutting off crisis. Like, how do I get this to stop? There is no real coherent thought process in that moment. It is just make it stop.
Yeah.
And that is like, so I stopped asking that question, because like some of my closest friends who've taken their lives, I was like, I told my wife, like, babe, this is what I do for a living. Like, I do this passionately and they all know it. Why don't they call me? And we start to realize, like, because when they're in that moment, they're not thinking about calling anyone. They're wanting to shut off the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we can't wait until they get to that point and say, call this number.
Right.
It doesn't work, because when they're at that point, they're not thinking of dialing for resources. They want it to stop.
Yeah.
If we can catch people before they get that deep, good. So that's why that number is still valuable.
Totally.
But how do we manage them? How do we give them the tools so when they get to that point, they're using the tools and not using any other means?
Well, I think you said it too, is like the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment, and however you want to label it. And obviously, being a veteran and having gone through what you went through, either directly or with friends, comrades, people that you served with. I think that's a big one too. And I know Nick can also touch on this too with our work. We are so grateful with our line of work that we have so many veterans who've not only used our service and then end up working with us, but just disabled veterans on our team, which we're just so grateful and so honored to have. Veterans are going to trust other veterans, right? And being able to have that connection with other veterans who've gone through similar or the exact same or anything that they understood. But you also said it perfectly too. A lot of these men and women are transitioned to, don't talk about your feelings, don't talk about your emotions, suck it up, don't go to medical, just get through it. It's fine. And then when you're out, it's like, well, did you ever go through this? Did you ever document this? Did you ever see anyone? And it's like, well, I was told and trained not to, so there's definitely that, that confusion and that of like, here I am serving my country, serving it proudly, going through all this stuff, but told to just suck it up, go through it, deal with it.
How many times have you guys, and you personally have been going through like, man, I wish I could talk to someone. And then you go to your phone and you're scrolling and you're like, Mom, no, Dad, no, my friend, no. I don't want to put a burden on any of them.
Oh yeah. The burden, the B word, the burden word. Yes. Yeah. Oh yes. Right. Or they're going through their own stuff. I don't want to bother them. Like, yeah.
It's like, they're going through life too. They just told me they're going through life. I don't want to put more on their plate. Like that's a hard thing that we all, man, I'm the same. I'm like, I don't want to put more on my wife. How much more does she be on top of taking care of the kids when I'm traveling? You know what I mean? Like, we have to find those people that they will take our burden. And they're willing to. I'm willing to for anyone. I'll sit there and talk to anyone, but I always say, look, I can have this call, but I'm going to ask for actions too. Like, what's next? How do we fix it?
Yeah.
Someone calls me all the time. They go, oh, my wife left me. I'm like, okay, cool. What's next? And they're like, wait, bro, I just told you my wife left me. I'm like, yeah, I got it. But you can dwell on that for a week if you want, but we got to keep moving. What's next? How are your finances? Right away, I say, how are your finances? Because you got to make sure that we're paying our bills. Do you know all your access codes? Do you know all your logins? Because I've been through divorce twice. I know how this goes. It's like, I got to pay all these bills. So like, there's a process that has to keep happening. We have to continue to live. The days continue to go. So there's a moment where it's like, how do we move forward? How do we become better? How do we manage this for next time that it doesn't happen again? And so that's kind of what I like to focus on with people is we're all living life. This life doesn't stop for anyone.
Right.
And it's not perfectly this isn't happy all the time. We go through the spectrum of reality. Wait, we go through happy, sad, depressed at times. Things are great, whatever that is, but we have to learn how to manage those in a way that it doesn't completely destroy us when life hits. And
Yeah.
it's teaching people tools, which is kind of equates to resiliency.
You had mentioned just picking up the phone and scrolling through and talking about, I don't want to burden my friend. I don't want to burden my family. I'm looking around that, how can veterans reach out to the TMRW Battalion? How can veterans get involved in Light the Fire Veteran? What's the best way for them to use the resource that you've created for this community?
Yeah, reach out to me. If you reach out to me, I'll give you the options. Do you want to join the group? Do you want to just talk to me? Do you need a resource? And then I'll direct traffic. They don't have to work with me. It's not about like work with me, I have the answers. It's like, what resources do you need? I'll direct traffic. That's how I feel. I'm not the end all be all. I'm just someone who has a space, but I will direct traffic to anyone in any space that they need. So if you're interested in the men's group, join us. It's not for everyone. There's guys that join and be like, you know what, bro, I'm not ready. Cool. Not everyone's in that space where they're ready to be in a group and communicate.
Yeah.
Why the group is important, in my opinion, is why there's community is important. If you go to the same church every Sunday and you don't show up, usually one of those guys is going to text you, hey man, I noticed you didn't show up. Is everything good? That's what community is for. They identify the small changes. They identify the little shifts in your personality and whatnot. And they're able to say, hey, you good? And so we created a community on Wednesdays. And when someone doesn't show up, we check on them. And someone does show up and they vent, like, good, they were here. We were there for that. And so we've created different things like call groups, text groups. I have a scheduled call every Monday for my brother and every Monday night for a friend. And those two people are my kind of accountability people. They know when I'm not going through it, or they're there for it when I can. That hour, I'm allowed to vent. I'm allowed to dump it on them, and they're allowed to do it for me. And so we give each other that. And we created these little things like that are kind of check the box places that we can identify, hey, you're not going through it. Let me give you a little bit more. And so anyone who's looking for a space, it's not a space, a woe is me space. It's a space of actions. If you show up here, we're going to expect you to do certain things for you to improve your circle. You didn't come to me because everything is perfect. You came to me because you're looking for answers.
Right.
Here's the different tasks we're going to ask you to perform and maintain. And then you're going to also give me your goals that you want to accomplish this year. And we're going to hold you accountable to those. Yeah. And so that's what we do. Because if it's just a space where we're going to show up to the bar, drink and talk, wow, this, that, that's fine. Sometimes people need a place like that. I'm not that place. I'm the place that you come to me, we're going to expect you to do things, because the only way we get better in life is change, right? The whole motto of like doing the same thing every day and expecting a different result, like that's crazy, right? So it's a space that expects people we hold them accountable for their actions, and we want people to improve. And the only way you improve is by getting things done.
Love it.
Thank you.
That is so awesome.
It's actions, right? I tell them, like, I'm in the same boat as them. There's no hierarchy in this space. I'm consistently working on my own wellness. For those who are listening, this is the most important thing you'll learn, is that wellness has no destination, meaning you'll never get to a point where like you're done working on yourself. You have to continue to do this daily. It's just like lifting weights. It's just like running. This is a forever thing for me. And in that. Yep. Yeah, in that same conversation, I have to continue to always improve as well, to feel that I'm justified to even sit here and talk about this subject. And so I'm forever growing. Once this master's is done, I'll get into my PhD program, and I'm going to continue to find concepts that hopefully help society put themselves in a better place.
I love that. You're talking the talk and walking the walk. I love it.
Thank you.
That's incredible. And thank you for sharing how we can how people can get in contact with you. We will also put that down below in the comments. Thank you for this time. Just to kind of wrap up on anything, Nick, Vince, is there anything else you guys would like to share?
I did have one more question for you.
Please.
Suffering from experiencing trauma, whether that be PTSD, whether that be the coping mechanisms that we, for me, it translated to anger and temper with my wife and my family, and that almost broke me, right? I turned that around, right? And I know that you're a big family man as well, and a big focus of your life is your family. And some of us are out there just really wanting to know, how do we support what you're doing? Yeah. Because we're tired of seeing our brothers and sisters go through struggles. We're tired of the 22 a day. We want to make sure that our veterans have the resources that you're offering. How do we still support you and make sure that we're getting the word out?
Great question.
Yeah, that's great. These programs live and die off funding. There's organizations out there that have 20 million. We have, I think last year we raised only $50,000. I mean, we need to find corporate sponsorships, someone that every year says, hey, we're going to donate this much annually to your organization. So, if there's very successful veterans out there, very successful men or women out there that are interested in finding an organization that they want to back and they want to believe in, we're looking for that. Tomorrow Battalion, essentially what we do is we write the checks for veterans, first responders, and their family members to get the help that they deserve. We write the checks to different modalities of healing. We also provide things like programs like Light the Fuse. And so we believe we are working on the answer. And so if you believe in what we're doing, and if you believe that the direction that we're going with our organization, then we just need to find ways of raising money. It could be if people want to host golf tournaments, if people want to host anything, if they know friends that have corporate companies that are looking at places to donate their money, we would love to be that person. We would love to be the organization, because if you believe in the direction that we've taken our organization, then we need to continue to sustain it by donations. It's a small company. It's not even a company. It's a small organization that is ran by my mother-in-law, my mom, one of my veteran buddies, me, and a couple other people that believe in the project. And I keep it that way because I'm scared of it getting out of control like other organizations have and kind of losing the integrity.
Right.
This has my name on it intentionally because people believe in my reputation, but I have to keep it in a way where it doesn't lose its intention. It's not a money grab for me. I don't make money off this. I don't want the money off this. I want to make enough money to help others and continue. This organization, it only lives and dies off the support from you. So we're really looking to get some massive organizations out there to back us. And that takes time. It takes trust. It takes for them to see what we're doing, and for podcasts like this, for them to hear it. And so, if you want to support us, go check out the organization Tomorrow Battalion, make a donation if you can. If you can't, it's okay. Share it on your page. That's enough for me to say that people are really believing in what we're doing. We're saving lives slowly but surely. And I just want to be in a position where I can continue to support my brothers and sisters.
Thanks so much, Vince, for being on here today with us. It's just so incredible to hear your story and just how you came to be where you are now and still what you're doing. It's like never ending for you. And I love that. That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Nick, for coming on here today. It's nice to have more people to talk to.
Nice. I like the setup.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching, and we'll chat with you guys soon.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Vincent,
thank you for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.